Hello, my friends. Thad Riley here, episode number 284 of the Thadcast. Thank you for taking time out of your day to hang out with me for a couple of minutes. You know, when I started the Thadcast, it was to be a vehicle of hope, a beacon of hope, actually, to the world around us. And when you think of beacon, it's not just a light, it's like this big, gnarly light. It like goes beyond that. It's what people look for when they're in trouble or having hard times. And that has always been the purpose of what we do here at the Thadcast, of what I do. And that'll probably be the purpose that will always keep us going, that will inspire new episodes and inspire other people to listen, especially in the world we live in today. And it was interesting because yesterday I was talking to a gentleman, a couple years older than me, vast business world life experience though in the game of those things. And we've always shared some stories about how things are going on in this world and politics and all that ballyhoo. And he said to me, he said, "Well, here's the difference between me and you. You've got more hope. You've got more hope than I do." And like as soon as he said that, I went back in my head and I thought about our previous conversations. I'm like, yeah, that's probably true. He has a little bit more of a pessimistic view of the world and some of the troubles that we're in right now. And our conversation was actually rooted in the idea that millennials and younger generations are so into socialism. And his belief was in the next 20 to 30 years that our country would become more of, if not entirely, a socialistic country, which is a phenomenal idea to think about. And I'm not saying that in a good way, but it's almost a mind blow. And I listened to his thoughts, and I thought of what some of my other friends have shared and what you hear in the political realm. And there's a lot of people who are talking about that. The thing that keeps me from going down that route, there's several things. First of all, I will say this. In the war of politics and the war of words, the conservative, the right, has lost that war long ago. It's been years since we were in the same ballpark. Now, we may win elections. Conservatives will actually probably tend to win elections, and I believe that's what we're going to see in a month. But the left, more of the liberals out there, have stolen the narrative. And liberals are great. I don't have a problem with liberals. It's the leftists and the left that cause the problems. By the way, we're going to a hopeful place with this. So if you're like, I'm tuning this guy out, hang with me. Hang with me, okay? The purpose is not a bunch of political ballyhoo, I promise you. So, anywho, the left has kind of stolen that with the mainstream media and their ability to be much better at disseminating information and getting it out there. Whereas the conservatives, the rights, are more insular and they are going to be more focused in on themselves, the families, their people in their home. So they're not as much cause driven. I'm not saying that's good either, by the way, right? So, and Ben Shapiro's actually talked about this somewhat. The left has stolen the media, the cultural ideals that we have today. They have their hands all over that, whereas the conservatives are a little bit more back. They're back, and not as the progressives is a great way to put it, have been more demonstrative in their actions. And it's obvious in our culture today with some of the leanings and some of the changings that we've had in our laws. Gay marriage is a great example. So how our laws have evolved and changed over even the past decade. And I say that to say this is why a lot of people feel that we don't have hope, because we continuously go down this road where more and more things change towards what a younger generation says they should be. But that younger generation is going to get what? It's going to get older. And they're going to have jobs, and they're going to start paying taxes. And the funniest little trick about all of this is this. I believe deep in my heart, and when I talk to young people today, they do not want to pay taxes. And that is going to be the problem with the left. it's just going to be the problem with the left, because young people today don't want to pay anything for anything. They want the idea that they can share everything together, that everything is this idea with me not having to pay anything. They don't understand that they're going to go work a 50 to 60 hours a week, hour work week, just to afford the home, the car, the lifestyle they want for themselves and their families. And then they're going to turn around and give a larger percentage than ever away to someone else. And here's what's not okay. Here's what's not okay. It's not okay to sit in your house and want the things that other people have and desire them strongly without being willing to work for those things. And that's the socialistic agenda, right? I think there's so many problems with them paying taxes, with them sitting back and giving away too much down the road, that they're not going to be called. They're not going to want that. So that's kind of my argument of what will happen. In fact, I think it's going to fall so flat. I think there's going to be a rebirth of capitalism. And in 20 to 30 years down the road, younger generations will have learned from this moment, and maybe over the next decade in history, as certain things may change, certain things may adjust in our tax policies, and they may increase. And when they start to, I'm telling you right now, people will be ready to revolt. So it's money, it's greed. And is greed good? Absolutely not. But I think that people are going to want to keep more. Now, wanting to keep more of what you have is not greed. So I think that's the number one reason why socialism will not be able to take off, because it requires high taxes that people will be unwilling to pay. The second reason is they don't have the long game. They've never had the long game, because if leftists and if socialists had the long game, they would be winning elections left and right. But they can't do it. They put up horrible candidates. We're seeing it now. After Barack Obama, you would think that there would be a movement of youth in the Democratic Party. Where is that? Who's young? You've got a guy who's going to be, he's like 78 years old, running for president. He's going to be 82 at the end of his first term. And if he does a second term, he'll be 86 if he wins. This is the youth movement that Barack Obama ushered in. I don't know how that works. I don't know how that was supposed to happen. Whatever it was, it didn't happen. You put Hillary Clinton up, and now you've put Joe Biden up. There's no youth movement in the Democratic Party. I don't know why they don't see this. I don't know why they don't do something about this. In the meantime, the president has surrounded himself with a lot of people who can run for office, people who are much younger than him, who could be president. The biggest conversation is either Mike Pence, Tim Smith, I think he's South Carolina senator, and Don Jr., by the way. Don't forget that guy. There's a lot of people who are younger and exhibit that youth in the Republican Party right now. And that's the long game. That's the long game that I think the president has paid. So I know we've just had to sit through a bunch of politics, and I said it wasn't going to be politics. And it's not, because we're going to just filter our way through in these last few moments through the hope thing, right? Because that's what we're all about. We're all about hope. And I know that a lot of you are drained right now on political discussions and all of this ballyhoo. I think for me, when I take a step back and I look at it, I think of all the victories that Jesus continues to have in this world and in my life and in what I see. You know, it's funny. There's this race in 2008, and it's in the Olympics. And we've talked about it a couple times. It's like my favorite sporting moment in the history of sports. And it was a relay. And the fastest team in the world was the French males freestylers. It was the 4x100 freestyle race, which is like the granddaddy of all the swimming races. It's one of the top relay races that you'd ever want to see. It's fast, it's intense, it's just all good. So Michael Phelps was in for the Americans, and they had this team, and the French had a team that was faster. And it was just, not only were they faster, they had the two fastest men in the world. Two of the three fastest men in the world were on the French team. So that's what you had. You also had another swimmer who was in the top like 12 or 15. So that put the French light years beyond the U.S. They had one guy, the U.S. had one guy in the top 8. That was it. One guy in the top 8, maybe another guy in the top 12. But that was it. And French having 2 of the 3 fastest swimmers in the world, that was it. So anyway, long story short, the fastest guy in the world for the French team is named Alain Bernard, and he's going last. He not only gets in the pool first, okay, his team is in first place when he gets in the pool. He's almost a body length ahead of the American Jason Lezak, who is a choke artist. I mean, the guy had choked in the previous Olympics so badly. He was supposed to possibly win the gold medal. He didn't even qualify for the finals. That's how bad he did in the previous Olympics. So this guy gets in the pool against Alain Bernard. He wasn't in the top couple of swimmers in the world. And what does he do? He starts losing ground to him. And in the last half, he comes back and beats him. And the announcer says, so America wins, right? This guy catches him at the end. He says, that was not only the fastest relay split in history, it blew away the fastest split in history. I mean, everybody had written the Americans off, right? And how many times do we hear this story in sports, right? It's the Kirk Gibson home run or the Joe Carter shot. It's these things that happen in this moment. And you go back to this moment and you're like, whoa, that was so cool. I got to be a part of that story. And so this is why I would encourage you to get involved. This is why I would encourage you to get involved in your local community in some way, shape, or form. It could be school board. It could be in some other way, chairing the Republican Party, starting a Republican Party, going to those meetings. Are they hard? Yeah. Are they ugly sometimes? Heck yeah, right? It can be such a colossal mess doing that stuff. And you bring people into your life that you wish were never in your life. And you're like, oh my gosh, if this person texts me or sends me another message, shoot me. I can't stand hearing from this person. And there's this whole gobbledygook of stuff now that you're thrown into. Look, at the end of the day, you have to figure out what kind of life you want to live. And the more you get involved and the more you get engaged in people's lives around you, the more you will be blessed, the more you will be encouraged, and the more you will have your hope built. Because not only are you working hard to change things on the ground floor, you're also being a part of something special and making memories, creating memories with people. But you're never going to be this person that's going to see that happen if you sit back scowling in your living room and watching Fox News or CNN. You're never going to be part of that better story if all you do are a keyboard warrior, right? And you're blasting your opinions and thoughts all over social media. But on the ground, nothing's happening. You need things to happen. We need you to help make things happen. But it doesn't happen if you're caught up in this ritualistic mindset that things are always getting worse. I mean, imagine the thoughts of the disciples after Jesus has died on the cross. I mean, they're not sitting there like, hey, this is great. No, they've watched their hopes and dreams shattered, crushed, and destroyed in a matter of a day. And all of a sudden, their Savior, their link to God Himself, their best friend in so many ways, the greatest human they've ever met, Jesus Christ, is dying in front of them in a horrific fashion. I mean, imagine, but they didn't realize they hoped there was some hope out there. They didn't realize, though, that He was going to do exactly what He said. 3 days later, in the darkest time of our world's history, the death of Jesus, He rose from the dead. And that was the moment that led us in to His grace. It is always darkest before the dawn. It's cheesy because it's real. It is real. And we have to embrace the hope that no matter what it looks like, God can do something amazing. And there could be a beautiful revival of so much goodness, of the heart of God Himself that goes through America. But it's not going to happen if you and I aren't out there and talking about Jesus and talking about hope. That's what our job is in this story. That's the role that we're playing. We're kind of like Jason Lezak. We get in the water, we're like a body length behind, but we keep fighting. And we keep believing at any moment God is going to do something magnificent. Why? Because he does. He parted the Red Sea for Moses and the Israelites while they're escaping Pharaoh. He parted an ocean so that thousands, hundreds of thousands of people could walk through the middle of this sea. I guess it's not a sea, it's an ocean. But he parted a sea so that hundreds of thousands of people could walk in, and then he collapsed it on the army coming behind them that was going to kill them. God is so big and God is so good, you and I don't even know what to do with ourselves sometimes with it. So what we do is we take action and we believe that God will bless it. We get involved and engaged and believe that God will have a hand in it to help make the world a better place. That's what we're going to do, my friends. We're going to carry hope and be a beacon of light to the world around us. We're not concerned about what politicians and the news are saying. Those things don't bring us down. Why? Because we have the hope of God in us, and it's built through the resurrection of Jesus himself, who overcame death. What more is there for God to overcome in this world? We can be part of such a magnificent story. We just have to be willing to take the first step. So be encouraged that the world is not quite as you may see it today. And be encouraged that the actions, the positive actions that you take could have massive, colossal ramifications on our world tomorrow. And also be encouraged that God is still good and God is in charge. And we get to be a great part of that story. Well, that is it. That is it for episode 284 of this hope-filled episode of the Thadcast. Thank you for joining me here today. As always, if you could do a review in iTunes or share this with a friend or on social media, that makes things happen over here for me. I would love that. But thank you again. Thank you again for taking precious time out of your day. And until next time, my dear friends, may you be blessed.